Hi, my name is Raven, and this is my vegan journey. I'm 32 years old. Currently, I'm practicing as a dental hygienist, but previously, I worked as a vet tech. I work as a health coach with the Columbus Veg community, helping people meet their nutritional goals by following a whole foods, plant-based, vegan diet. I've been vegan for 3 years, and previous to that, I was vegetarian for 17 years. I became vegan because I worked as a vet tech with farm animals and research animals for several years. While I was working with these animals, I was desensitized to the procedures I was conducting on these animals or patients. I was basically told to treat the animals with a number a different way than I would treat animals with a name at a small animal hospital. Someone that would treat your dogs and cats versus someone that would treat research animals or farm animals is totally different. Totally different situation, basically. So that being said, after finally coming to terms that the number that some animals had versus an actual name wasn't any different, all the animals felt pain, all the animals had the ability to form relationships, and all the animals showed a lot of depression and anxiety when I was working on them, whether they were a number or a name. I felt like this was very wrong. And finally one day I just cracked and I said, I can't do this anymore. Some of the procedures I conducted were basically like a nightmare. For one time I was told to inject a cow that we were trying to regulate the milk production for, and I lifted the tail. It's called tailing the cow, and I lifted the tail gently, and someone came up behind me and said, no, you got to do it really hard. And I did it a little bit harder, and they said, no, really hard, like this. And they shoved the tail up as hard and fast as they could, as high as they could. And the cow stopped. It was in pain. And then they handed me a big syringe with a large needle and said, inject the cow. And I was like, well, I can't. There's feces and dirt all over the rear end of this cow. I need to prep this site before I inject it. They said, oh no, just go ahead and shove it through that big clump of feces and dirt. It'll be fine. And then I stopped and looked at them, and they put pressure on me, giving me a dirty look. And then what did I do? I just shoved that needle right through that clump of feces and dirt and got onto the next cow, basically. So that's just an example of how desensitized I was to the treatment of these animals. And finally, after feeling bad about myself, having lack of self-respect due to my beliefs not aligning with my actions, I finally became vegan. And that was it. And ever since then, I've felt a lot better about myself. So how I went vegan, I just made sure the next time I went grocery shopping, I didn't purchase any animal products. So whatever animal products that were in the house, we just phased them out. We used them, we didn't throw them away, we just used them, and we didn't purchase more. So it was pretty simple for us. There was a little bit of pushback from my husband at first about going vegan. He fought me a little bit, particularly on cheese and eggs. He likes to make homemade pancakes every Saturday morning. This has been a tradition of his for so many years. I've been with him for 7 years, but for so many years. And we were having trouble finding things that would help bind the pancakes well, but we found an egg replacement, which is basically this. I highly recommend that. You can buy it at most health food stores and Amazon. So definitely check that out. But things like that, I mean, it gets a lot easier the more you immerse yourself in the culture. And it's so much easier today than it was 17 years, well, I guess 20 years ago when I went vegetarian. So the most difficult about going vegan for me was after being vegetarian for 17 years and my husband actually adopting the vegetarian lifestyle. I had let him know I'm ready to go vegan, and he really wasn't ready to go vegan. But I do more of the grocery shopping because I know a little bit more about nutrition, and so I kind of took the reins and started shopping a little bit more, changing up some things. That being said, he kind of resented me, I'd say, for the first 4 weeks. After that, he started really learning how to cook with some of our new products, and he really started liking the products, and no more. He didn't fight me anymore. So I'm very happy that we made the switch, and he is too. The best thing about being vegan is that I'm finally at peace with myself and the world around me. I'm doing my best daily to make the best healthy impact on the world and others around me. So finally, my beliefs align with my actions. So for example, when I'm conducting abusive or horrific, painful procedures on animals with a number rather than a name, that does not align with my beliefs. So finally, I'm not doing that anymore. Finally, I'm not paying other people to hurt animals or to keep animals in a terrible condition just to make it to slaughter. At this point, I'm much more confident because I don't have to feel bad about myself when I don't do what I believe. In the end, this confidence has spilled over to many parts of my life. It spills over into my job, it spills over to my athletic activities, and I believe it spills over into my marriage. And I think it's very important to have that confidence. So some of my favorite foods are pretty simple. I do a lot of raw prepping of foods. So for example, I make homemade dressings and then I just cut up very finely greens or different vegetables and I make chopped salads. I make a dressing with nuts, nutritional yeast, garlic, a little bit of plant-based milk, blend it up, put that on the chopped salad. That goes pretty well. Sometimes I add ginger, things like that. That's pretty much like, we eat that probably 3-4 times a week. And my husband and I love it. We typically eat for health, not so much for pleasure, but we try to eat things that taste good as well. Now, when I go out to dinner or lunch or something like that, I typically really like Indian food. So there's a couple really good Indian restaurants around Columbus, and we love to check those out. If I could tell people one thing about veganism, it's that they should try it and give it a couple months at least. Don't just try it for a week and give up. Give it a couple months, because if you follow a whole foods, plant-based, vegan diet for several months and you compare your athletic and mental performance to the previous version of yourself, there's going to be major changes for the better. I assure you that. Thanks for letting me share my vegan journey with you, and best of luck with yours.